This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Welcome to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. It's your host, Tim Link, and I'm so glad you're joining us today. We have our wonderful guest. We're so excited to have a New York Times bestselling author on, Miss Julie London. Julia London's going to talk to us a little bit about her latest book, You Lucky Dog. It's a novel and a sweet little read, and of course it has wonderful dogs and has a wonderful cover. So we'll get into all that and how all that came about, give you a little bit of the storyline, as well as talk to Julia a little bit about her writing and writing style. So we'll let her get off the interview without giving us a little bit of tidbits from the master herself. So we're going to be excited about that. So in any case, everybody hang tight. We're going to come back right after this commercial break. You're listening to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio.
Looking for a dental treat that does more for your dog? Daily Dose is a 2-in-1 chew that pairs a daily dental scrub with powerful supplements to help with the biggest health concerns facing our dogs. Daily Dose was developed by vets to be simple to use and super effective. Plus, dogs love the taste. Available for joint, skin, heart health, or calming. Daily Dose. Your pet's daily dose of awesome. Visit yourpetsdailydose.com to save $3 on your first bag with promo code PETLIFE. That's yourpetsdailydose.com.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. And joining us now is New York Times bestselling author Julia London. Julia, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And congratulations on the latest book. It's called You Lucky Dog. So it's a wonderful novel. And tell us a little bit about it without giving away all the good, juicy tidbits.
Okay. Well, it starts off with a dog walker who mixes up a couple of basset hounds he's walking, and he has the basset hounds returned to the wrong home. So a man comes home and finds a very depressed basset hound where his was very perky. And a woman comes home and finds a basset hound eating pillows where her basset hound had been very depressed and liked to lay in the mudroom. And so that's how the book gets started. They have to find each other and correct the mistake. And through the reading of the book, you find out the dogs are opposite but fall in love, but so are the two people. It's kind of a jumping off point to learn more about them, but she's very driven and he's very intellectual and kind of in his own head. And it's just, a love story about how these things come together and the different ways we meet and the different things that make people click.
That's right. And first and foremost, the dogs have to get along, right?
Yes. First and foremost, that's always number one rule. Love me, love my dog.
That's right. Prerequisite number one. And I love the fact that in the book you tied in the thing that makes all animals, all dogs, all animals, and all humans perfect, which is macaroni and cheese. So I thought that was
right. Yeah. So people have different philosophies on dog rearing. Some people are a little bit more lax than other people, and I made sure to point those things out.
That's right. Well, I love the fact that, and I found it kind of interesting, at least what I read into it, when we talk about the main character, Carly Kennedy, she's got this basset hound that's really kind of laying around and depressed, and she often wonders why that dog is that way. But then when she finds that the dogs have been switched, it's like, well, wait a minute, that's not my dog. But yet I wondered all along why my dog is so depressed all the time. And do you think maybe it had something to do, and I love how you wrote this in, but Carly, how animals reflect us and reflect our energy, could it be perhaps that Carly was the problem all along?
Well, it certainly could. I mean, she's very driven. She's going 1,000,000 miles an hour. She doesn't have time for anybody or anything. She doesn't have time to just lay around with her dog. And she's also not a dog owner before this. And the dog comes to her, her mother gave it to one of her grandchildren and they weren't ready for a dog. And I'm sure we've all heard those kind of stories, and people get dogs when maybe they shouldn't have. And so she ended up with this basset hound. And, I think the basset hound, when she sees that what a different dog he is around, the other dog, she starts to see more of his personality and starts to rely on him more, like we all do, rely on our pets for comfort. And so it's kind of a growth for her through the dog.
Yeah, absolutely. And we often say our animals can be in tune with us and pick up on us and sort of be our opposite. The thing that we need most, Carly is very, like you said, hectic and scattered and doesn't slow down for a minute. And all along here was her dog, or the dog she acquired, trying to teach her that lesson that, hey, you need to slow down and spend some time and maybe just not be depressed, but, lay around a little bit to calm yourself down.
Yeah, and let me sleep in your bed. I'm a really good bed mate.
That's right. Oh, goodness. And the cover is wonderful. I looked at the cover and I'll just briefly describe to our audience, you've got two very similar dogs because obviously they get mixed up in the whole story, but the color schemes are different. One's brown with, why I say white and black. The other one's brown with black and white. And I looked at this cover I had it sitting on my desk, and after reading through it, and I looked at it and thought, why do we have two the same? And I realized, oh no, Tim, you need to get a clue here. That's the point of it. They look similar, but they're not the same, and they're not same in personality, and the cover dictates that. So kudos to your editors for, I'm assuming, this is a custom design by you, I'm assuming they picked out the design. No. The design.
Yeah, they have a whole art department that are way smarter about book covers than I could ever be. And I thought it was an adorable cover. I just loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about the main heroine in the book, Carly Kennedy is the female part, the lead in the book, and then she meets up with Max. How is it love at first sight, or is it did they not get each other at first, or how does the storyline go?
Oh, no, they do not get each other at first. I mean, he did feed her dog mac and cheese, which just, she just couldn't believe it. And he lets his animals on the couch. And that is a great debate that my friends and I have. Animals on the couch or animals off the couch, And she's definitely of the off the couch mindset. But she's also, she's a publicist, and she lost her job, and she's trying to make it on her own. So she's picked up a client who happens to be a young fashion designer. And so she's wearing an avant-garde outfit that makes no sense to anybody. I mean, it's something that should be coming down the runway, but she thinks you have to walk the walk. And so she's got on this really strange outfit when she meets him, and he's like, what is wrong with this woman? Like, what is she wearing? And why is she so upset about a little mac and cheese? I mean, her dog wasn't eating, and now her dog's eating. So they are opposites attract, but they attract pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I think that's a part of it. I always like to say, animals in general, but dogs in particular, it's one of the great common denominators. You can be polar opposites of whoever, whether it's a friend or a relationship or a partner, whatever it may be. But if you have a dog, then you got that great common denominator. And especially when you're talking about dogs if there's a particular breed that you're fond of, or you happen to have a particular breed and you run into someone that has that same breed, I think that's a good starting point for you.
Yes. Or if they just have a dog in general, for me. I mean,
Yeah, that's it.
You got to be a dog person.
That's it. If a dog loves you, all's forgiven. I don't care about anything else about you. You got a dog. Dog loves you. Okay, I'll put up with you. You must be good. Something good must be happening with you. Oh, goodness. So when we talk about the latest You Lucky Dog, how do you compare that, contrast that compared to, what you've done before? Some of the novels you've written before. Was it something you had to give a lot of thought to on how you're going to put this one together, or was this one just come to you in the middle of the night and you just whipped it out, no problem?
Well, it is a little bit different than what I normally write. I have written a lot of historical romance novels, kind of in the vein of Jane Austen, and I've written some contemporary novels that are either women's fiction or romance. I mean, but they generally encompass more relationships than just the love story, like between a mother and a daughter, sisters, and so some of them have a lot more, like emotional crises in them because, we just like to read about other people's problems. So this one's much lighter. It's much lighter. And it's not that they don't have issues, Max and Carly. They do, but mostly they come from their family, and we probably all of us have some level of dysfunction in our families. And they both have quite a lot. He's got a profoundly autistic brother who's a grown man, and she's got a crazy mother, like really crazy. And, and a sister with a lot of little kids. And so the family plays a part in it too. But I really got the idea. There's a man in my neighborhood, and he was walking to dachshunds one day, and they were both brown dachshunds, and they were in lockstep. And I went, the opposite direction, but I was like, how does he tell them apart? And then I started thinking, I wonder if he ever gets them, mixed up. And wouldn't it be funny if he was a dog walker and got them mixed up? And kind of took it from there and spun this story off these two dogs that get switched by a dog walker. And so it's a little bit lighter, but that's where the genesis of the idea came from.
Yeah, and that's what it was sort of leading to. I thought that was quite fascinating because, for your fans out there, obviously, that it's still sort of in that same vein. It's a romance, girl meets guy meets girl, and, they have their ups and downs, and then, love conquers all, and which is fantastic. And now all of a sudden, you kind of put two dogs in there, and they're not the main characters. They're the glue that sort of holds the storylines together at times, I feel.
Yeah.
So when you were outside and you saw the gentleman walking his dogs, I mean, was it, as you say, was it sort of an epiphany? Like, oh, I've got something here. Or was it something like, I need to add something a little bit different to whatever I'm working on right now?
I wouldn't call it an epiphany. It was just kind of a kernel of an idea that and I probably mulled it over for a couple of weeks, like, what could I really do with that? But I just liked the idea of these dogs being so, those two dachshunds did look identical. We had Basset Hounds when I was growing up, and we had a couple that looked very much alike. And so I just kind of, thought about it, and romantic comedies are really popular right now. And I thought it would be a perfect launch for that, make it a romantic comedy instead of something maybe a little deeper or darker. So that's basically it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I thought that was brilliant because it's, as I read through it, it's sort of, you can see your brilliance coming through and sort of how, compared to some of your other novels and your best-selling novels out there, and you compare that to, now you're adding a dog to it. It's not just simply I'm going to add two more characters and I'm just going to have to make them dogs this time. It's really adds a little bit more humor, a little bit more interest, a little bit different angle to it. So I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah, and I liked it so much. I'm doing another one with dogs. So, I mean, it's fun. Dogs are not that easy to write into a book. You always have to, they're kind of like babies. You always have to account for where the baby is or the dog is. But in this book, they did become like a secondary character. They were, catalysts in the story.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, and welcome to the club. Once you put dogs in your books, dogs must be in all books moving forward.
I'm a little afraid of that.
I think so. You become a dog person. You become a dog writer, which is okay. It's another part of your audience. You're adding on to it. So I think that's good. Good on you.
Yeah. I mean, given the world situation, I'd much rather hang out with dog lovers than, anybody else right now anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think I may just take out that word lovers, just dogs, period. Yeah. But that's just my commentary.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break. I'm going to come back, Julia, and talk to you a little bit more about the book, but then talk to you about writing and writing styles and how you go about putting your masterwork together. So everybody hang tight. We'll be back right after these commercial breaks. You're listening to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio.
Sit. Stay. We'll be right back after a short pause. Well, 4 to be exact.
I have a chocolate cocker spaniel named Lady and a blackmouth cur, and it's a lot of responsibility owning a dog. My dogs don't have any health problems because they're eating what they need to eat. DINOVITE.com. Dinovite is like pouring a multivitamin right onto their food. We'll be scooping our Dinovite, then squirting the Licka Chops and the fish oil. They start salivating.
You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
I get my Dinovite at DINOVITE.com.
Are you listening to this right now with a cell phone clenched between your teeth as you frantically flip pages on your paper calendars? Or are you a new breed of groomer, bred for speed and efficiency of movement? 123 Pet Software automates your communications, doing the reminding, confirming, thanking, and marketing for you. 123 Pet centralizes your schedule, employees, clients, inventory, and more. 123 Pet is the business management software you need. Start minding your business today. Visit 123petsoftware.com.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. continue our conversation with New York Times bestselling author Julia London and her latest book, You Lucky Dog. So, Julia, when people pick up this fantastic novel, have some fun with it, get in touch with their romantic side, get in touch with the fact they didn't spend enough time with their dog, and they need to do that too. When they pick this up and have a great read with it, what do you hope to accomplish? What do you want people to walk away with after reading the book?
Oh, just an escape to a happier, simpler time, and maybe a reconnection to what it's like to fall in love. You know, we've all experienced that in some form or another, and it's nice to be reminded of what that feels like. But basically just an escape.
That's it. I mean, and it's good, and I think that's perfect for it because, when you're putting together a great novel, you want it to people to sort of forget about life for a while. And this is what obviously this novel does, but also it loops you back, back into the fact of, remembering first loves or first times you've met with your partner, significant other, whatever it may be. And maybe even the first time when you got a dog or a dog came on your doorstep that you hadn't expected, which does happen this way through Granny and the kids, but which is definitely something that happens, as you mentioned, a lot. But it does. I think you did a great job of putting that all together. And it's one of those reads that when you pick it up, you don't put it down because you really want to see what's going on. You get kind of involved in it. And it does sort of allow you to release for a little while and enjoy life. So big kudos for you on that.
Well, thank you so much.
So your writing, got to pick your brain from the master here. Tell us a little bit about your writing styles. Are you the type of person that has these great ideas by seeing your neighbor walk the dogs, and so you immediately sit down and put together this great novel? Or are you more of, okay, I'm going to pitch this idea, get the idea, and then figure out when I need to get it done, and I'll complete it a couple of days before the editors are clamoring to get it?
Well, a little of both. The longer I've done this, I've been doing this for close to 25 years now.
Started very young. I know you
Yes, I started extremely young. But the longer I've done it, the more of a structured kind of synopsis that I need. I mean, there was a time in my life I would start with just an idea and write a book, but it would require a lot of editing on the back end. And it's gotten to the point in my career where I really don't have a lot of time for that. I mean, I have so many months to complete a novel, and I've just figured out it's better to go in with a solid game plan, not just an idea of a game plan, but a solid game plan. So I probably spend a month kind of thinking through the structure of the book, like what the emotional beats are going to be, what the character arc looks like, where it begins, where it ends, and then spend the rest of the time writing.
So it's really structuring it, putting together the storyboard, putting together the characters, and sort of A to Z, and hopefully you got it all mapped out before you even sit down and start putting pen to paper, we'll say.
yeah, or fingers to keyboard.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I tend to think of a book in thirds, and the first book is the setup and the getting to know you, and the second third is where a lot of the conflict comes in, generally more of the external conflict for the characters, which is, like in this case, for example, is their family. She's got issues with her sister and her mother, and he's got, his father is taking care of his other adult son who's autistic, and Max thinks that he should move into a home, and learn to be a little bit more independent. So he's got that whole conflict going on in his family, and so that's like the middle of the book. You're exploring all those conflicts, and then the last third of the book is where you start to see either they're not going to make it or they are, but something's got to give, and it kind of, you go right on into the happy ever after.
There you go. Like that. I like that. So at what point does your editor get involved? Do they come to you and say, okay, it's been 6 months, we need a new book? Or they come to you and say, I got this idea? Or do you actually come to them with this sort of this arc and storyboard, this framework, and pitch them, say, here's what I'm going to write, and what do you think of this and the characters?
Well, when I sign a contract, I generally sign for, it's usually at least 3 books, and tell them these are the ideas that I have for these books. So they're not fully formed ideas. They're just like, I'm going to do this book about dogs, and these basset hounds that get switched. And they're like, oh, that sounds great. And so I do a couple of those. And then when it's time to write the first book, I will give them the sort of the synopsis and the things I was just talking about. And after I finish that book, then I will do it again. I will come up with another synopsis for the second book and go through it. And so I just submitted the second book on that contract, which I said had more dogs in it. And so now I'm going to start thinking of a third book, and it will have more dogs in it. But I don't have a story to go with it yet. All I know is dogs.
It's got to have dogs. It's going to be, next thing you know, it's dogs falling in love and the people are secondary. That's how it all starts,
right.
Julia.
That's right.
I love it. I love it. So when in timing wise, I mean, is it typically something that, so this book's hot off the press, it's out, available, everybody's going to pick up a copy of it. Meanwhile, you got the second one already cooking, and that's going to come out, and now you're thinking of the third one. How do those frameworks turn out? I mean, is it really sort of an every 6 month, every 1 year type thing by the time you're working on book number 3, or perhaps it's almost done and dusted while you're still talking about book number 1, perhaps?
Right. I mean, I just finished book number 2 and 1 just came out. And I think the second book doesn't come out until this time next year. So, I'll be done with the third one by the time the second book comes out. I would say it depends on the kind of book it is. Literary fiction, they probably 1 book a year, 1 book every 5 years. But in genre fiction like this, I generally try to get a couple of books out a year, just because the romance reader is a very voracious reader. And especially if you're writing a series, they want all the books of the series and they don't want to wait. We're all so impatient about everything, myself included. I mean, like if you're watching a Netflix series, you want all of the episodes now. That's what they've trained us to do. And we've kind of Netflixed the genre fiction too. Everybody wants all the books in a series. So I write them a little bit faster.
There you go. Yeah, that is fascinating. I think you're spot on. It's society today. We want it quicker, faster, better, and hopefully cheaper if we can get it.
Right.
And the binge watching. Yeah, I got caught up. I won't mention the series, but I got caught up in a series I've been wanting to watch. And, I said, okay, I'm just going to watch like 1 or 2 last night. And it ended up being 6. And
right.
Extra caffeine. Starbucks loves me now. It's like, oh, you need 2 extra shots in your drink. Great.
Right.
So now you're writing, you went from being sort of gung-ho, sitting there writing a whole book, to now really being kind of structured about the whole process, because you have to be to get everything done and accomplished and putting out a great novel. How are you as a writer? Are you 4:00 every morning after you get your coffee ready to go, or are you 5,000 words a day and that's what I do, or are you, sometime in the middle of the night, wake up and just start going at it?
I tend to treat it like a job, and I start sometime in the morning. I generally exercise or definitely walk the dog in the morning, and then come back and start working and work through the day. And, I've written a lot of books, so there's a lot of business around the books. And so I have like a couple or 3 hours of pure creation when I'm writing a book. And then I have a couple or 3 hours of answering emails and doing some promotional stuff, or writing, whatever they need. Sometimes they need just copy for the sales team and that kind of thing. So I put in a full day, but it's it's like a work day. And then around 5 or 6 o'clock, I knock it off. I used to work at night, but I don't know. I just can't do it anymore. I've lost my night mojo.
Well, I think you have to, whether you're a night person or a day person. You sort of, and time zones obviously come into play. But I think you have to get a little bit more structured and be more stingy with some of your time, because otherwise it would be mundane. It would be monotonous. It'd be probably wear you down after a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of gritty kind of stuff to writing. It's not, so many people think it's just such a cush job. You just get up, and when the muse strikes you, you put a few words down and then you have a cocktail. I mean, that would be fantastic if that's the way it actually works, but it's just not. I mean, I get so, and there's readers who contact you too. And then there's the whole notion of being available to them on social media, which publishers like to see. And so there's a lot of, I'd call grunt work that goes along with it. And the other thing is, after a couple hours of writing, my brain is kind of fried, that pure creation. If I'm editing, I can edit all day, but if I'm actually creating the document, it's, I run out of that juice a lot faster than anything else.
Yeah, and that's key. And I think you said it spot on. This is a job. This is a career. If you were writing one book and then, maybe 5 years later you put out another book, whatever it may be, that would be perhaps a little bit different story. But even with that, I mean, during that time, there's a lot more to it than the old days. Not that I'm that old. I will account. I'll fight anybody that says I am. But but there is. You have the social media side. You have to do blogs. You have to do vlogs. You have to make appearances on my show. show, and in addition to whatever the editors need and writing the set. And so there's a lot that goes up to it. So I think you're spot on in how you handle it. You've got to get structured. You got to get, after you walk the dog and give him some macaroni and cheese, then you sit down and you go at your task for the day.
He would be so happy if I gave him macaroni and cheese.
Oh my God.
He would love me forever. I mean, he's going to love me forever anyway, but he would really love me forever if I dumped some mac and cheese on his food every night.
Well, if it's organic and whole cheese and stuff, maybe. No, I'm sure a veterinarian calls and emails from this, but yeah. But macaroni and cheese does make the world better. That's my quote, and you can quote me on that. So
I will.
Well, Julia, tell the audience a little bit about where they can get a copy of You Lucky Dog, where they can find out a little bit more about you and follow you and send you emails and bug you to death, all that wonderful stuff you just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, You Lucky Dog is available wherever books are sold. You should be able to find a copy, and certainly online, through Amazon or Barnes & Noble or Kobo. And I have a website, julialondon.com, where all my books and what's coming up next. And then you can find me on Facebook, Julia London. You can find me on Twitter, Julia F. London. And you can find me on Instagram, which is also Julia F. London.
There you go. So you got all your bases covered. So we'll make sure everybody knows that, so they can definitely follow along with what's going on and see the latest, greatest of in the next book and all the teasers and all the wonderful stuff going on. So we'll make sure we get that out there, and everybody pick up a copy of You Lucky Dog.
And I have a lot of pictures of my dog on Instagram and Twitter too. So
oh boy,
for no other reason, go look at Moose.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. You got to have the pictures and videos on there. That's for sure. Well, Julia, congratulations again on a great, great novel, as usual, and coming over to the bright side about writing about dogs. So thank you for that. And
thank
everybody,
you.
Yeah, everybody pick up a copy. It's called You Lucky Dog by New York Times bestselling author Julia London. Julia, it was a pleasure as always. Keep us posted, and we'll follow along as well, and we'll look forward to chatting with you somewhere down the road.
Okay, and thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Well, we're coming to the end of the show today. I want to thank everyone for listening to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. I want to thank the producers and sponsors for making this show possible. If you want to drop us a line, listen to some of the other shows, find out what's going on, you can always visit us at PetLifeRadio.com. You'll find a cornucopia of great entertainment, great shows, great hosts, and obviously take a look at all the wonderful stuff on animal rights. So, until next time, write a great story about the animals in your life. Put it in a blog, an article, a book, magazine, whatever it may be. And who knows, you may be the next guest on Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. Have a great day.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.